Gosh, I love playing Sonic the Hedgehog on my Sega Genesis. But you know what would make it even better? If we remade it on the Game Boy Advance, but instead of it being good, we just crammed it in there real good without optimizing anything. That just looks and feels right, doesn't it? Not only can I not see where I'm going because the screen got shrunk to fit on the Game Boy Advance screen, but the audio sounds like it's a bootleg product and not an officially licensed game.
The Bluetooth device is ready to...
It seems like nowadays if a product is good, it's only a matter of time before we see a re-release or remake of that product. And of course, as we all know, new is always better. I mean, just look at this fossil. Ew, you can actually count the pixels on that thing. Who would want to play this? Where's my blooming shadows? Get that shit out of here. I can't appreciate something that's old. What are you, crazy? That's so much better. It might actually be playable now. You would think that a remake must always be better than the original, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes when we remake stuff, we forget to put in the effort and soul to the product, and we get something like the GTA Trilogy Remaster, which released in 2021 for $60, and was a remastered collection of the 3 amazing GTA games that released in the 6th generation of consoles. Unfortunately, those games are old now, so that means they're worthless to me. Can you believe they don't even have dynamic shadows? Oh. Thankfully, Rockstar remade this game for people like me. Doesn't that just look so good? I almost feel bad for the people who played the original. What the fuck happened? What should have been a great time for fans of the franchise turned into one of the most embarrassing moments for the franchise. The entire atmosphere of the games were gone. The character models looked like they were made out of plastic. I mean, just look at this. Ew, get it away. I mean, sure, on paper, if we improve the lighting of the models, make higher resolution textures, and update the character models, we should have a better product. Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. But what if we just didn't give a shit? Then you get this mess. Oh my god, how do we approve this? But to be honest, the characters are just a smaller part of a bigger problem here. We lost the atmosphere that made the game special back then. Yeah, you remember those nice orange sunsets that we came to love in those games? Yeah, instead of taking the time to remake those properly with the new engine, they flashbagged us and made everything way brighter. I mean, alright, I guess the game might look uglier, but at least it's still playable.
You always crashing, CJ. We burning, fool!
Yeah, so the game ran like dog shit too. Apparently the game was outsourced to a smaller studio who used the mobile version of the GTA games, which were already a diet version of the games originally released on the PS2. So we got a remaster of a mobile game which was based on a PS2 game and not the remaster of the PS2 games. This led to the game being extremely buggy on release and having things like this happen. So unfortunately, this game was just a terrible experience for fans. You want to know what the cherry on top of all this was? Rockstar, being the oh so consumer friendly company that it is, saw how old and icky and crusty the original games looked and did us all a favor and delisted them from all storefronts so that we may only play the remastered version of these games. Good thing too, I heard the cars don't even clip through the floor randomly in the originals. Guys, this is clearly a superior product, just look at how realistic the rain is. Okay, how do we fuck this up? If we had weather effects work perfectly fine on the PS2, what happened here? Surely it can't be that hard to replicate the weather we had on the PS2. Oh yeah. In 2012, we got Silent Hill HD Collection on the PS3 and Xbox 360, which included Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, but not the first one? Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention how excited I am for the God of War Remake Trilogy, which includes God of War 2, 3, and Kratos teaches typing. No, we don't need the first game in the franchise to see where it all began. I am very good at picking up context clues. The problems came from a graphical standpoint. You went from having a creepy fog that hid the world around you, making the town feel empty and keeping things unknown, to a slight mist in the air that wouldn't stop a jogger from running in the morning. This completely changed the tone of the environment, and it lost a bit of its creepy factor where you could see a lot more around you. Areas that felt mysterious and empty now just felt empty. Ooh, maybe let's add a few things here, guys. Also, when they did add the fog, it looked very unnatural. Sure, many developers use the fog as a way to hide things that haven't been rendered yet, but the original does it in a very realistic way, where it actually looks like fog. In the HD collection, it's like I'm playing Minecraft. Other complaints came down to minor nitpicks, like the voice acting not being on par with the originals on some areas, but those are just nitpicks. Which I guess if you think about it, the whole video is me nitpicking. If you want to play these games, get an emulator, or buy the 2024 remake of the game. If you want to talk about real nitpicking though, then let's go to the Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD Collection, which has Budokai 1 and 3, but not 2 because apparently people didn't want this one included. I too love when companies think I don't want more content. Anyways, this was an HD re-release of the games, and besides it looking like the characters were all dipped in oil, the game's major complaint was that the music was entirely changed to that of a soundtrack of their future games, such as Budokai Tenkaichi 2 and 3 and Raging Blast. Now, while I agree with the people who said that the original soundtrack was amazing and an integral part of the original games, there was one major problem with it. Kenji Yamamoto, who was the composer of the soundtracks of the original games, was a huge fan of Western music. So huge, in fact, that he plagiarized a good majority of his music. And let me tell you, this guy has some nuts on him, because he wasn't copying some small indie bands you hear at the pub. He was going after some heavy hitters like Black Sabbath and Earth, Wind and Fire. This fucker even copied a song from Avatar, the most successful movie in the world, and thought he would not get caught. I wish I could reach this level of not giving a fuck that he did, honestly. Of course, we all know he got caught for doing this. Ironically, it was through copying Avatar that he got caught in 2011. So a year later, when this game came out, it was obvious something needed to change, and so they used the soundtrack from their non-plagiarized games. And as wrong as it is to plagiarize something, I sure do miss the original soundtrack. It really wasn't the same without it, but it really wouldn't be right to keep using the original soundtrack. Sometimes these type of changes need to happen when re-releasing a product. Sometimes it's a bit much, and sometimes it's not enough. And sometimes it's Pokemon Pokemon BDSP. Now this game goes into the category of technically it's fine, but it just makes you wonder with the choices it made. And sure, we can talk all day about how, oh, the chibi art style is so bad, or how the Forest EXP share ruins the game, or even how Pokemon following you look janky. But if I'm being honest, none of that stuff bothered me at all. What bothered me was the lack of new shit like the previous remakes had, such as Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire adding Mega Evolution, and even a new post-game story with Mega Rayquaza. BDS didn't even add Platinum content and all the improvements it came with. It just seemed like a missed opportunity, especially when the previous remakes were done so well. The difference between this and the previous remakes was that BDSP wasn't made in-house and was outsourced to Ilka, who, to give them credit where credit is due, provided a very faithful remake. And to be fair, I enjoyed this remake. So yeah guys, the remake was fine overall. I just wish a little more effort was put in like the previous ones. But maybe I'm just complaining a bit too much. I am a Persona fan after all. Persona 3 Reload, an amazingly done remake of Persona 3, apparently missed the mark with some people as it quote-unquote lost the soul of the original. And sure, whatever, the game is a bit brighter and they remix some of the original songs or whatever. All that stuff is just nitpicks. The real problem came from the cut content. First, the biggest thing that was cut from the content was The Answer, an epilogue episode that explains what happens in the ending of the game. Now, not to spoil it too much, as I have friends that watch my content who would want to play this game without being spoiled. But this is kind of a big omission if you really want to play the whole game story. Thankfully, the game later added it as DLC, but it kinda sucks. But that's not for me to complain about here. It did its job and it completed the remake, right? Well, that is until you look at Persona 3 Portable and realize the remake skipped the entire female protagonist route, which wasn't just a player model change. It was kind of like playing a different version of the game, as it had an entirely different soundtrack and even different events. So why was it cut? Apparently it would cost too much money and take too long to implement even as DLC. But if you ask me, it's all his fault. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much whether or not a remake loses its soul or whatever you want to say, as long as the effort is there and you can see it. No matter what developers do, there will always be someone out there claiming it has lost its soul, no matter how many improvements it has made. A remake or a remaster should always have one goal in mind at all times: to preserve the original experience and not just ship something out the door. The GTA Trilogy was obviously the worst one I talked about today, but other than that, the other games are all good in their own criteria, and although you might not think they're better than the originals will always be there for you if you need them, unless you want to play the Rockstar games since they say fuck you. In my opinion, a great remake is one that enhances on the original, and honestly, Persona 3 Reload fits that criteria perfectly. It truly is the best way to experience Persona 3 nowadays. Games like the Resident Evil 2 remake and Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy work because they understood why the originals were so great, and enhance on that by modernizing controls and improving visuals while also maintaining the same vibe to it. And of course, not to mention the countless number of quality of life changes that were made. You want to know what the best thing to do is? Create a new product. Sure, I'm excited to play the Persona 4 remake on release day, but I can't help but notice it has been almost 10 years since Persona 5, guys. We don't always need a remake, but I'll always welcome one. Except The Last of Us. Golly, that game has been remade so much, it's crazy how Naughty Dog hasn't made an original game since 2020 with Part 2. Guys, please keep your remakes. I don't need a PlayStation 6 remake when the PlayStation 6 eventually comes out. Anyways, I think I've talked long enough about remakes and remasters, so thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe if you want more content. And hey guys, if this video reaches 100,000 views, I will make an HD 4K super collection of it in 10 years.